Hello there and welcome into another edition of the JMac podcast. Today, another edition of POTUS Did What? As we answer an important question, has President Trump handled his own COVID diagnosis correctly? And I think that this is a major question being asked by the media, but it's also a question being asked by Trump supporters and by myself. A lot of people were hoping, and we talked about this in the last podcast, that they were hoping that the president getting COVID-19 might cause him to change his tune just a little bit. Maybe after experiencing it, he would say, hey, you know what? On second thought, I'm going to start wearing a mask. Or on second thought, I'm in a social distance. Or I'm going to be more specific and I'm going to share these CDC guidelines and I'm going to make sure people understand how important it is to follow this. Now, I suggested that none of that was going to happen because if he did that, he would be admitting that he had been wrong all of these months in the past. And again, I want to point out that, you may think President Trump was great on the economy. I do. Great on Supreme Court justices. I agreed with him. Great on tax cuts, on deregulations. I've supported him on all of those things. But none of that means he has been a good leader when it has come to COVID-19. In fact, I think he has been shameful, to be honest with you. And I'm going to share more of that with you today. And if you disagree, please comment. I can see your comments live as we are broadcasting live on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. And let me know what you think. This is Sheldon. Hey, Sheldon. Just saying hello. He says, hope all is doing well. I'm fighting the good fight, but 2020 has been a beast. And I don't think it's done yet either. So at any rate, I'm grateful that you're all here, and I hope that you're doing well as well. The president now openly downplaying COVID-19, and I think putting lives at risk. That he returned to the White House. He immediately took off his mask and immediately went about downplaying the virus. And I think a culmination of what he has done can be summed up in this one tweet that I want to take great issue with, a tweet that he sent out today.
Putting the coronavirus threat against the flu, here's what he had to say. He said, quote, flu season is coming up. Many people every year, sometimes over 100,000, and despite the vaccine, die from the flu. Are we going to close down our country? No, we have learned to live with it, just like we are learning to live with COVID, in most populations far less lethal.
Trump supporters likely now to put on a mask, likely to social distance after hearing that? Absolutely not. And his statements in this are so misguided, and it's so easy to dismantle. Let me show you how, okay? He says sometimes as many as 100,000 people die every year of the flu, and we don't shut down. What has happened with coronavirus? 200,000 people have died, a number that the White House is not disputing, and we shut down. Think about that. Every state in the union shut down almost completely. The state of Utah, we shut down. Businesses were closed. The streets were empty. And 200,000 people got the virus and died. Now, how many people would have died if we didn't shut down? President Trump himself, I should have put the montage together. He says if he didn't act quickly, and this is where his statements completely contradict themselves. He says if he didn't act and didn't shut down the border, remember, shut down travel from China, he says millions would have died. Well, if millions would have died, is this like the flu? Is this worse than the flu? Is this better than the flu? Do you see how ridiculous this is? 200,000 people died and we shut down. And for what? Because now we're going backwards again. I think 22 states in the union are seeing spikes in the coronavirus. And so more and more are going to die. This tweet is reckless. I think that's why it's been deleted by Twitter and also Facebook. Why? I just don't understand. This is from Orion. Let's see if I can put that up on the screen. He says, I don't think Trump takes it seriously. He has had access to medicine, cutting edge, for that matter, that none of us would get. He's definitely in a bubble. I would hope the virus would have equalized this, but we're seeing that the elite now have access to stuff you and I wouldn't be able to get. I've seen a lot of people complaining about that. So he gets top-notch care, and then he comes out and says, oh, it's not that big a deal. For most people, it's not as bad as the flu. And he's obviously talking about different age groups. But again, this idea that it's okay that all of these 200,000 died because they had pre-existing conditions. Well, they could have lived for 10 more years, 20 more years, 30 more years. People live with pre-existing conditions all the time. And we're just heartless to that. We're so inconsiderate to that. The thing that is really blowing my mind, though, are the contortions that Trump apologists are going through to justify his behavior now and justify how he got the virus and why he got the virus. Listen to this spin. This is unbelievable to me.
Yeah, and I think, to the point about the script being flipped, the reason why it flipped, and maybe it's a flaw of Trump, is that he didn't hide from the virus. And the reason why he didn't hide from the virus is he didn't want America to hide from the virus. If he was going to ask America to get back to work, right? To get back to work and experience a risk, he was going to do the same thing. He was going to walk out there on that battlefield with you and not sit somewhere in a basement and tell you how you got to get back to work, but not go out himself. So I think he put himself on the line, and the flaw being that as an optimist, as somebody who's trying to convey a message that we're going to get through this and things are going to be better, he had to walk that walk. He had to do that. He could have scared the crap out of everybody, but he refused, and it goes back to his original point about trying to make sure the positive attitude is maintained along with a sense of concern. So he took the risk. He got the virus.
Oh, so now he let out on the battlefield. And that's why he got the virus. Because he let out. Because he asked Americans to go back to work and he went back to work. My friends, what the White House has done officially, if you look at their publications and you look at the CDC publications, is that they've asked people to go back to work wearing a mask and socially distancing. And that's what the president should have done. Nobody's saying he should stay in the White House. Nobody's saying, well, some might be saying that, but I'm not saying that. That he could still have his rallies. He could still go and have a Supreme Court nomination in the Rose Garden with people there. But you spread out the chairs. You make sure everybody wears a mask. The point is that America can reopen before we get a vaccine if everybody socially distances. But he didn't do that. So what he did is he went out on the battlefield with no weapons, no armor, no safety precautions whatsoever. And he's asking you to do the same thing. When the reality is, it is proven science that if you wear a mask and everybody else wears a mask, and we socially distance, the economy could be doing even better. But unfortunately, states are now shutting down again, and schools are shutting down again. Why? Because we can't get this right. We can't all be concerned about each other enough to be able to make sure that the people around you don't get the virus. So what the president did was reckless. It was irresponsible. If he was a military leader, if that's the analogy, he put all of his troops and himself in harm's way. And why? For what reason? And that's the question I have to ask. For what reason? Politics. It's that simple. Politics. This is Sheldon. He says, that's not really fair. So all the essential workers out there working, it's their fault if they catch the virus. This is Chris. He says he's above the rule. This is Euro. He says he is a poor example of humans. This is Chris. Chris says Trump wants the virus to spread and he thinks that'll be it. No, I don't think he wants the virus to spread. I think he wants his economy back. And he is so dismayed and distraught that the virus has destroyed his economy. And he wants his economy because that's what guarantees him re-election. And that's, to me, that's the line of logic, if you want to call it, that he is using. I don't think he wants people to die. I don't think he wants people to get sick. I do not believe that. But I think he is making reckless decisions because he wants to be reelected above all other things. This is Orion again. He says Trump isn't going to be going into the battlefield for anybody. He's got a deferment from going into the battlefield because of bone spurs. Ouch. Let's see. This is McKay. McKay says, I don't believe that the president is treating himself. He has doctors for that. So a better question would be, have the best doctors in the world correctly handled the president's viral infection? I'm going to say yes. No, I think you misunderstand my question. I want to know if he is using his own infection for the good of the people. He's the leader of the free world. So maybe I could have asked the question differently, but that's the question that I have. Or is the nation better off or worse off because the president got the virus? Again, so many people were hoping that he would say, hey, this is worse than I thought. But I told you that wasn't going to happen. This is Chris. He asked the question, do we think the virus is affecting his mind? I don't know. I have no idea. What I do know is that there's absolutely no question in my mind that politics is controlling his response to COVID-19. 100%. That if he, and to me, it's so misguided because he could easily, I mean, think about it. What is the political harm and damage if he wears a mask? What is the political harm and damage if he tells the country that we're going to reopen, but only if we can do it safely? So wear a mask and socially distance. And that he sets the example of wearing a mask and socially distancing. What is the political harm there? He's the one who created the feeling of conspiracy within the people who follow him. They didn't come up with that on their own. He planted that seed. If he hadn't have planted that seed, then he wouldn't be out now having to continue to perpetuate that seed. If he had come out from the very beginning and said what he told Bob Woodward, and that is that this is 6% worse than the flu, it travels via the air, and it is incredibly deadly. If he had come out and said that, and said, that's why everybody please wear a mask and socially distance, and once you are a business or a school and you have a plan where you can do that, then please reopen. None of this would be necessary. But he painted himself into this corner. He created a political trap. And now there's absolutely no way he can go in the other direction without admitting openly that he's been misguiding the American people for the past 5 months. And keep in mind, he has said it would go away. He has said it would go away without a virus. without a vaccine. This is Sherry. Sherry says Trump doesn't care for anyone but himself. Well, I know he cares about re-election more than he cares about the virus. I believe that 100%. This is from Louise. She says, miss your radio show, Jay. I miss it too, but I do have this opportunity to continue to share my thoughts and opinions, and I'm finally able now to get your comments as well, so I'm super excited about that. This idea that Trump was leading out on the battlefield is one of the most ridiculous things I have heard in a long time. But the problem is this, when you're supporting somebody and they do something wrong, you have a choice. And a lot of times you don't think about what's going on inside emotionally. You have a choice. You either suck it up and say, you know what, I support the person, but I don't support this activity. Or you have to somehow overcome that feeling inside of you. And so what you do is you shout others down and you accuse them of wrongdoing. And you become louder and more vocal about your support of that person. And to me, as I've explained over and over again, there is nothing that can create more immediate harm to our country than defending the indefensible, than letting any elected official know that you will support them no matter how bad they get. If you look into history and you look back at certain individuals, when they knew that no matter what they did, people would support them and get twisted and find any way in their power to support them. And I know you might be saying, well, the left, they do everything in their power to go after them. The left is not relevant when it comes to the actions of President Trump. The only possible chance that he will not do some of these things comes from his side holding him accountable. And when his side refuses to do so, and they come up with this twisted logic, then you send a message to him that he can do anything. And he's received that message loud and clear. One other frustration I have with the president today is this announcement.
Markets have done an immediate about-face in the last 10 minutes after President Trump said no more stimulus negotiations. He has rejected what the Democrats are offering now in a single tweet. Yes, he tanked the markets after accusing House Speaker Nancy Pelosi of negotiating in bad faith, instructing Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to now focus solely on passing his Supreme Court nominee.
Now, there's accountability for this on both sides. But I've been watching and I've been seeing the White House and the Democrats coming closer and closer and closer to a deal on another COVID-19 stimulus. Now, I'm a firm believer that we need this stimulus package and we need it now. And I think the president doing it before the election could help him politically if he's making a political determination. You know I'm against the national debt. You know that I'm against that. But in this case, when governments are asking the economy to shut down, there's only one organization, in my opinion, that can pass stopgaps and can keep us out of a depression. And that's the federal government and the state governments. We're at a place now where unemployment is running out across the country. The airlines have said they're going to furlough tens of thousands of people. That's going to affect their industry for the next decade if they don't get some kind of help. This country is on the edge of a cliff. And the fact that our leaders cannot come together in order to pass a stimulus to save jobs, and I hope one of your jobs is not one of the ones on the line, and to keep people afloat for the foreseeable future until we have a vaccine, because that's what it's going to take. To me, this can only go in one direction. And the fact that our representatives cannot come together on it is just one more commentary to me as to why we need to choose different people to represent us. And until we get that, I don't know. I don't know how bad it's got to get before they do something. I really don't know. I just think that we're on the edge here. And when these people start to lose their jobs, there's going to be real trouble in this country. Okay, so unfortunately, I know I haven't probably made you feel better today, but we've got to have the truth. We've got to assess what we're being told by our leaders, and we've got to come to a place where we can hold our own side accountable. This is Sheldon again. Oh, wrong one. Let's go. Sheldon says neither side is willing to budge. The representatives we have don't have the people's best interests at heart. You are absolutely right. This is Patty. Patty says that's not true. He ran for office so he could say he was the most powerful man in the country or the world. I do believe that this president does many things, if not most, to cater to his own narcissism and his own ego. That doesn't mean that everything he has done is bad. He's done good things. And although he inherited an economy that was on the rise for the last 3 years of the Obama administration, he did things to rocket that up even further. And he deserves credit for that. The deregulation, the tax reform, he deserves credit for that. So even somebody who was primarily driven by politics and ego can do good things. And I'm more than prepared to give him the credit for doing those things. But at the same time, just because he's done good things doesn't mean that he can't make some of the worst choices possible for the country. And he has done that with COVID-19. I think he has been a train wreck when it comes to this. And I believe if he loses this election, it will be because of how he handled COVID-19 more than anything else. There were a lot of other things that people are upset about, but this one, I mean, I would ask yourself, people ask the question, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? To me, the question should be, have we advanced our situation at all since COVID-19 came into this country? And in my opinion, we're just about, if you look at infection rates, we're just about where we were when we started. And so we've made no progress. I think the one area where you can say there's been some progress is the death rate has gone down because we are getting better at treating this. And so that is a positive. This is Steve Taylor says, that's why you lost to Burgess, Jay. Well, that is probably true. I don't know. But I did get in there and I did run for Congress, and Burgess did beat me soundly. So you can take from that whatever you want. This is Chris. Chris says surely he will lose, right? I don't know. The other dynamic here is just the party system in general, and there are people who can't stand President Trump, but they are conservatives. And they can't see themselves voting for Biden. And so it becomes this huge quandary. I know a lot of people that have said they're voting for Biden because they can't stand Trump, but these people are conservatives. And when you're voting for, when you think about it, if Biden gets in and the Democrats have the House and potentially take back the Senate, you will have gotten rid of Trump, but you will have also ushered in an age of Democratic control that, if you're a conservative, you don't want to see. This is Patty. Patty says, nobody knows the long-term effects of the virus. Playing it off is very dangerous. I agree. When it comes to people's health and their way of life for the future, you should always err on the side of caution. The virus isn't scary. The cavalier way our president treats our lives and future is scary. Thank you, Patty. Again, I think he could have handled this totally different. The country could be more open than it is now. We would all be social distancing and wearing masks and being concerned about each other because our commander-in-chief taught us that we should be thoughtful and considerate of other people, but that we should also do our best to get back to work and get the economy going. And the only way to do that is to socially distance and to wear masks. And everybody should strive and seek to do that. It's a very strong, coherent message that aligns with science and would save lives. He couldn't do that. He just couldn't find a way clear to do that. He couldn't do it. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am going to get to the point where I can schedule these Facebook Lives in advance and these podcasts in advance so you can know they're coming. I know I kind of surprise everybody with them. And please take a minute and scan that QR code you can see on the screen or click in the description and help contribute to this podcast. Become a patron. You can make a monthly donation or a one-time donation. Anything you can do will help me continue to bring these podcasts to you on a regular basis and break down what's going on. This is Paul. Paul says, Burgess had hundreds of thousands of dollars backing him up from national pro-Trump groups. Jay ran a grassroots campaign and did very well for the very little money he had. Thank you, Paul. That was our number one struggle. We actually led in the polls right up until the spending started for commercials. And that's when I believe Burgess pulled ahead. He had a ton more money than us. We didn't have any money for commercials. And I think that was the difference maker, but hey, I mean, that's how you win elections. And, hopefully the next time I think about doing that, if I do, don't tell my wife that I might do it again. Don't tell her. Hopefully it won't be 2020 with the virus and everything else. And maybe there'll be a chance. Sarah says, thanks, Jay. No, thank you, Sarah. Thank you for joining me. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. I hope that you have a wonderful day. And let's hope that we can get cooler minds to prevail when it comes to this pandemic so that we can finally get out of it instead of just prolonging it, because that's what we're doing. We're doing everything in our power right now to make sure that this virus sticks around as long as it can, kills as many people as possible until we get a virus. We can do better, we should do better, and we need to hold our president accountable for not doing better.